Okay, so they got through stage nine on Sunday. And let's see, just for like a quick summary, the stage nine was about 155 kilometers. It had 15 cobbled sections for a total of 21 kilometers. So about halfway through the race, say about 80 kilometers to go to the finish, is when you could say the race really heated up. That's when there were the majority of the longer and more difficult cobbled sections. These are sections that would be about 2 kilometers, 2.5 kilometers in length. Okay, so first of all, God, I'm a little bit pissed off. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have failed to, let's say, achieve their goals. So I don't want to focus just on BMC, but nothing against Chris Froome. I mean, he's like the Golden State Warriors, or he's like the Dallas Cowboys or the 49ers were in the 80s or 90s. He's like the Patriots, or one of these teams that just keeps on rolling. And Team Sky once again is a very strong team. Okay, here's what's pissing me off though. Okay, so a year ago, Richie Porte was riding well. Richie Porte, a former teammate for Chris Froome, goes solo, gets his own team. He's riding well. Hey, maybe he's going to threaten Chris Froome. Maybe he's going to push Chris Froome. Maybe he's even going to beat Chris Froome. No, Richie Porte crashes last year. He's out of the tour. Okay, what the frick? Okay, so about 148 kilometers to go. Okay, so they're only 7, 8 kilometers into the race. What is that? That's like 4 miles, 4.2. What is that? That's like 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 miles. Okay, so Richie Porte crashes. I mean, the race wasn't even really going. They were still, in kind of like the grand depart mode. They were, riding through the small villages, or say the outskirts of the starting city. They weren't going super fast. Who knows? He must have hit tires with somebody, whatever. Anyway, Richie Porte down, broken clavicle, out of the tour. So what the hell's BMC gonna do? Okay, so what are BMC's options? Okay, remember, so they have Greg Avamot in yellow, but how long is he gonna stay in yellow? Not too long. Once they hit the Alps, he's gonna lose the yellow. Okay, so do they try to win at least the day stage? Do they at least try to win stage nine? Get a little bit more glory before Van Avermaet is out of yellow. Okay, another option, do they go and back TJ Van Garderen? Okay, well TJ, he can ride pretty well in the mountains. He's okay, or he's good as a time trial. But how was he on the flats? How was he in the windier stages? How was he when the peloton is going 50 kilometers an hour, zigzagging around on narrow roads in northern France, right near Belgium? Okay, well, we're soon going to find out. Now, I would say, even best case scenario, even a strong TJ Van Garderen would probably be lucky to get fifth, sixth, seventh place in the overall general classification. I know he did really well when he first started riding in the tour. And then he had some problems getting sick and getting infections that basically forced him out of the race. And I mean, the guy is not bad. He's a good, strong rider. And if you think about it, if there's 172, 173 riders left, I mean, if he can be, top 10, top 11, even top 20, that's really good. But when you're looking at top one, two, or three, or four kind of thing, not so realistic. Okay, so let's kind of see how things are going to go, play out. All right, now, very frustrating though for Team BMC. Very disappointing. That being said, like I alluded to, there's other teams. Marcel Kittel has not really done very well in this year's tour. He hasn't even really gotten second or third in any stages like Greipel has done. And actually, Kittel's team director was criticizing him. So Kittel actually was really riding hard today. He was out there. He was even trying to lead the main group of the peloton. He was trying to help his teammates. He was trying to show his worth. So that's cool. I can appreciate that. Okay, so these stages kind of follow the routine where you get 8 or 9 or 10 riders in a breakaway, and that was no different than today. They, of course, soon to be caught. but they really weren't caught until the end. They actually stayed a core of two, three, four guys in the breakaway, including at one point Van Avermaet, tried to stay out in front of the lead group of the peloton, tried to win the stage. And it's kind of safety too, or I should say safety meaning smartness, avoiding crashes, because if you're in the peloton, it's very dry, so very dusty at times, and even dustiness on the road. So dudes were going down all over the place, just tires, wheels flipping out, landing on their side. Most of them were able to jump up, get back on their bike within 20, 30, 40 seconds, or they were just not really general classification, or they're just domestique type riders. So, of course, it affects their team and their goals in that day's stage. But, whether or not they lose 30 or 40 seconds because of a crash is not that big of a deal if they're already down 25 minutes on the yellow jersey. A lot of people were not just necessarily crashing on the cobbles. A lot of the crashes were either going from the cobbles to the asphalt or from the asphalt to the cobbles. And in most of those situations, there's a big turn, right? So you're on asphalt and then you're making a hard left or a hard right onto cobbles. Right then is when a lot of riders would go down, including Chris Froome, by the way. But again, Chris Froome, always with the good luck. He crashed on stage one? He missed the bollard or the side of the road. Like the guardrails, they're equivalent of sort of guardrails, but they're little vertical posts. Okay, so he missed that, landed in grass, jumped up, got on his bike, didn't lose more than 20 or 30 seconds, which he made up. Okay, so in stage 9, Chris Froome goes down, doesn't get hurt, gets up, only loses, 40, 50 seconds kind of a thing. Doesn't ever bend his wheel, doesn't fricking get double flats, and then in a situation where the peloton is going balls out and, he doesn't get any support for a minute and a half, gets on his bike, and then maybe gets a puncture again 10 kilometers down the road, like that has happened to other riders. Anyway, hey, it's cool. And by the way, Chris Froome was not the only one with good luck, or let's say he creates his luck. Okay, so let's throw out some quick bravos. Quintana kicked ass. He learned from his previous mistakes. The dude rode well. Quintana there in the lead group of the peloton for the majority of the race and was there at the end. Valverde, solid. Valverde actually faded a little bit at times where Quintana didn't, but again, Valverde rode well as well. Dan Martin rode well. Peter Sagan, dude is an overall beast. He was right there constantly. There's Geraint Thomas. There's Chris Froome near the front of the lead peloton. There's at least 4 or 5 guys from Team Sky. And right there's frickin' Peter Sagan. Andre Greipel was up there. He lost some time, but overall he was near the front. Greg Van Avermaet from BMC, the current yellow jersey, he rode really well. He even got into the last breakaway to try to win the stage, but constantly was up there with Froome and those guys. Okay, who revealed himself to fail? TJ Van Garderen. Sorry, bro. Okay, so here's the catch. Lesson to all American riders. And by the way, Taylor Phinney did okay, but he came in, let's say a minute and a half plus down on the winner. He came in behind all the main guys, so Taylor Phinney came in behind, like Dan Martin and, Froome, Valverde, Quintana, Rigoberto Urán, all the big riders, Tom Dumoulin. So, and Taylor Phinney is not a GC guy anyway, but he was kind of talking a little bit of shit that he prefers to be able to freelance on like a Paris-Roubaix. So what I'm kind of guessing then is because Taylor Phinney had to ride a lot of pacing for his team leader to help get his team leader through the race, that kind of exposed Taylor Phinney's weaknesses, kind of like what happened to TJ Van Garderen. But TJ Van Garderen did even worse than Taylor Phinney. So actually, and who knows, the camera doesn't focus on Taylor Phinney. He actually might have rode his ass off, but maybe he just got caught behind a slow group, got caught behind some cars. The dust might have jacked up his lungs a little bit, just whatever. Okay, here, poor TJ Van Garderen. Okay, at one point, the guy is there. And this is with like 40, 50 kilometers to go. This is in the serious part of the race. This is like cobble after cobble after cobble section that are like 1.7 to like 2.5 kilometers in length. Okay, very narrow too. So you can only really ride like maybe 2 or 3 riders abreast, but generally single file with guys jumping in and out of the gravel, because some, of course, like to ride in the gravel next to the cobbles, but you got to be careful because then you can hit like a little pothole, or you can hit a nice juicy rock that gives you a puncture, or just kicks your wheel and your handles off to the side. So in some ways, it's better just to stay on those cobbles and just punch through it. Okay, and not only that, but transitioning from the cobbles to the gravel, back onto the cobbles, over to the gravel on the other side. You see what I mean? There's more chance where your tires or your wheels are just going to kick out. Okay, TJ Van Garderen, he's there, but he's getting dropped. He's getting dropped in the flats. I'm talking, these are the asphalt sections that are like 8, 10, 12 kilometers in length until you get to that next like 2 kilometer section of cobbles. So here's what happens to TJ. TJ is dropped. He's back in the convoy. He's back in the cars. So he's like, he's 50 yards, 100 yards, 50 meters, 100 meters back. He claws his way. He gets to the back of that lead group of the peloton. And then just as they get ready to go onto the cobbles, he gets dropped again. Or as soon as they get on the cobbles, he gets dropped. He just could not hang. And here's what's going on. These dudes, okay, so remember how in the earlier stages, until it got near the end, in the flatter stages, the peloton and even the breakaway were happy to do like 20 miles an hour, 21, 22 miles an hour. And then only near the end would they crank it up to like 25, 26, 27 miles an hour. Okay, so what are we talking here? So like 40K is about 25 miles an hour. So sub 40K, like 38K, 38 kilometers per hour, 40 kilometers an hour. No, yesterday they're doing 50 plus kilometers an hour. So that's like 29, 30, 31 miles an hour. They are freaking pushing it. And TJ Van Garderen cannot hang. That's not his style. He needs rolling hills. He needs a slower flat stage. He needs some mountains in there that he can do decent at. Okay, and these, by the way, are not pure sprinters, because the pure sprinters, yeah, they need to be strong enough to ride, 50K for 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers at a stretch. But they're also mainly there to do those big bursts of speed to win the sprints. If you are an American cyclist, you must go somewhere in the United States that has wind from all directions, shitty roads that are gravelly and rough asphalt. And you must ride for at least 50 kilometers, like 30 miles, at 29 plus miles an hour. And you just got to suck it up and build up that muscle memory, build up the proprioceptors, get the intestinal mental fortitude to push through that pain, and know that you can get your legs strong enough and your lungs and heart capacity big enough that you can frickin' sustain 29, 30 miles per hour sustained for like an hour. Okay? Because this is what's going on. TJ was getting dropped. Okay, now again, Taylor Phinney, he did okay. Other riders also were dropped, including, mostly Europeans, because there's only a few Americans in this year's tour. But it's kind of like soccer or football. If you are going to do it, fuck the MLS, screw the MLS, screw the NASL, whatever, North American Soccer League. You must grab your balls, suck it up, and go over to Europe and play, because iron sharpens iron. Okay, now the flip side, people say, oh, but the Europeans are assholes. Yeah, okay, yeah, who cares? Americans are assholes too. What do you think? So when these Spanish basketball players or these Lithuanian basketball players come over to the NBA, you think they were embraced by American society? No. Do you think they fit into American culture and society? No. Do you think they did not miss their kick-ass tapas bars and Lithuanian cuisine and food that you can only get in their little town there in Lithuania. And meanwhile, they're driving around San Antonio or Denver, and all there are is Pizza Huts and Taco Bells. And then they're searching and trying to find Lithuanian food anywhere in like the city of Denver. Okay, so you have to earn the respect just like they did. Okay, and yeah, maybe you sit on the bench and you only get 10 minutes of playing time every 3 games. Eventually, you'll get your chance, and that's when you use that anger and that focus and that resolve. And meanwhile, you're still practicing, and so iron strengthens iron, even on the training rides or even in, let's say, football team practice or soccer team practice. Okay, so to anybody under 28 or 25 that it wants to do semi-professional anything, when it is a European dominated sport, you got to go over there and just do it and embrace it and accept that they may not like you or you may not fit in, and who cares? Eventually, especially if you just fake it to make it or show a little interest, go try a tapas bar in Spain. Go hang out with the Lithuanian dudes and try their post-game ritual, whatever they do. Go hang out with these cycling teams there in Belgium or France and do what they do. And eventually they'll see that you're not an asshole. Okay? So anyway, TJ Van Garderen, I don't know exactly how much time he lost, but they were talking he may have lost 5 or 6 minutes just on stage 9 because he was getting dropped and he was just getting gassed. So back to BMC. I have no idea what Team BMC is going to try to do. They're probably scrambling and are like, what I would think they should do is just say screw it and go on the attack. In other words, have TJ Van Garderen rest once they go into the mountains starting tomorrow. Have anybody else on BMC rest and then target individual stages. Like, in other words, TJ, you take Tuesday, you rest, you just chill. You conserve. I don't care if you lose 15 minutes on the day's stage. I don't care if you lose 18 minutes. I don't care if you come in 1 minute before you're going to get swept off of the course. As long as you the next day are in the frickin' breakaway, kicking ass with the king of the mountain riders or whatever. Be one of the first 2 or 3 riders over the first couple mountain passes. Maybe you can get second place in the King of the Mountain. Maybe you're already out of the King of the Mountain, TJ, but at least you can get our BMC jersey and your name on TV in the articles. You can gain the respect of people who will look at BMC and say, okay, guys, you had to reevaluate, you had to reassess. Hey, bravo, you won a stage. Go for a stage win. Okay, Greg Van Avermaet. Clearly, once they saw that TJ was out, then it was, okay, we're not riding for TJ today, meaning the stage 9 in the cobbles. So Van Avermaet stayed on that front group of the peloton. He goes for the breakaway. He almost won the stage. I was actually kind of rooting for him. Okay, spoiler alert, but people already know anyway. Degenkolb, German dude, won. And I say bravo to Degenkolb. This guy almost was out of cycling. He got hit by a car during a training ride. Some doctors told him he may never ride again. He needed surgery and all that good stuff and months of rehab. So Degenkolb out sprinted. Basically, it was 3 guys coming into the finish. Greg Van Avermaet was second. Degenkolb was in front of him. The only chance Van Avermaet had was to be able to outsprint Degenkolb. Degenkolb's a stronger rider, stronger in the sense of like that kick. So fair, justice, the stronger rider won, but kind of a bummer for Van Avermaet because that would have been yellow jersey for at least these few days for BMC. Van Avermaet winning a stage, and then at least BMC could say, okay, we won our stage, we had our guy in yellow. If we pick up our toys and go home, we can still say it was an okay compromise. It was an okay result. Again, though, okay, Dan Martin's gotten his stage. This Degenkolb got his stage. That's, I think, Segafredo Trek. So those 2 teams at least have a notch in their belt. Gaviria has 2 stages wins, and Peter Sagan. Oh, and by the way, Team BMC won the team time trial, so that is a little bit of a cool result. But that's for, that's a whole team thing. It would be nice if they could get a stage win. A little shitty luck. Bardet, Roman Bardet, he had like 3 mechanical issues. Every time he had a mechanical issue, he would lose, a minute, 20. He would fight and claw his way back into that lead group of the peloton, only to have another freaking mechanical, and then he's back 50 seconds, a minute 20 plus. Rigoberto Urán, he had a crash, and I believe it was basically his own fault. But anyway, he crashed. He was back. He, on the other hand, kind of struggled to close the gap. Mikel Landa, he went down on asphalt. It actually looked like he was taking a drink of water and then hit a bump or something, and he just went down. He was behind. Okay, here's the positive, though. They were fighting and fighting and pushing and pushing. So that lead group of the peloton came in. This is like Chris Froome. This is Geraint Thomas. This is Dan Martin, Nibali, Tom Dumoulin. This main core of guys. They came in as a group, so they don't really lose time against each other for the general classification. Roman Bardet and Mikel Landa did not quite catch up to them, but they were only about 7 or 8 seconds down. So they minimized their time losses to that core of their competitors. TJ Van Garderen, again, like I said, he's probably 4, 5, 6 minutes back. I'd be curious to see if he was able, to kind of like at least maybe get that to like 3 minutes or something. Oh, a little bit of a shout out to Warren Barguil, the guy from Brittany who is more of like a wild card for the mountain stages to try to win, 1 or 2 stages. He was hanging with that front group of the peloton. Rafe, Micah, Balka Malama, they also had some problems being stuck behind crashes, but they were able to claw and fight their way back as well. Thomas de Gendt, once again, put an S load of time on the front of the breakaway. He was leading the breakaway like he's led the peloton in the past, pacing it. So again, you look at Thomas de Gendt at the end of this race, and if he's like 2 hours down on the yellow jersey, hey, these are those small things where he's shown his worth. Jakob Fuglsang, he was gapped off the back of the main group of the peloton, but he was able, to sort of claw his way back as well. Oh, a nice positive for Nairo Quintana. His team director did come out publicly and say that they are riding to support Quintana. So whatever little rumors or vibe was going on that, Alejandro Valverde is like the true coach and team leader, or that Mikel Landa kind of knows his place and knows that he is always going to be second to Valverde. Well, it's actually, that's kind of cool. They must have acknowledged, or maybe they had a little, powwow as a team, and they came together and said, hey, let's support Quintana. And then the team director came out and publicly said that. Of course, maybe in the Spanish papers or there in Colombia, they may think that this is BS. And, it's like a coach or a manager talking about a player one way to the media when behind closed doors. It's not really like that, but they're just trying to, keep the PR clean so that people don't latch onto this idea that maybe Quintana is sort of, he's respected, but they don't really look at him as the leader. We'll see going into the mountains. Starting Tuesday, we're hitting the big mountains. Okay, so always keep in mind, when they go from the mountains to the flats and then from the flats to the mountains, some riders can adjust very easily. Other riders struggle. Their legs are not quite ready to go from flat stages where you're riding tempo and you're riding 25, 28 miles an hour to now just hitting these mountains where it's just all about, dealing with the pain and just a sustained effort to go up these mountains. Okay. Also keep in mind, the Alps and the Pyrenees are different kind of stages. They're different kind of topography. So the Alps are longer, steadier climbs. So like I know in the past, Levi Leipheimer, the American, he would do better in the Alps. because he would find a speed that was comfortable for him and he would just ride tempo. So even if Levi Leipheimer got dropped, right, and he would be 10, 15, 20 seconds back from the guys going balls out, the Chris Froome types, the Alberto Contador types, even the Schleck, Andy Schleck types, the Lance Armstrong types, that kind of thing. Okay, he would keep it right at like 15 or 20 seconds because he would just, he would pick a speed. And the Alps, think Alps, then it's you're climbing for 20 kilometers. It's a 12-mile climb, it's a 10-mile climb, and it's just a steady gradient going up for those straight 8, 9, 10 miles. Okay, the Pyrenees, on the other hand, you might be going at like 6% for 4 or 5 kilometers, and then there's like a 1K or like a 500-meter stretch where it kicks up to 10% grade. Then it kind of goes back to about 6 or 7% for like 2 or 3 kilometers, and then you get 1 kilometer at like a 10-11% grade. So guys like Levi, they would say minimize their losses in the Alps, but then when they hit the Pyrenees, they would lose a minute. So kind of keep that in mind. What makes some riders strong is they can adapt and do well in the Pyrenees with those steep kicks, as well as they can do well in the Alps with just the long sustained efforts. Also, remember, they go clockwise 1 year, counterclockwise another year. So you could see where some riders might prefer to hit the Pyrenees first in the first week or the beginning of the second week of the tour. And then they just kind of like, okay, I can deal with the Alps the third week of the tour. But then if it flips and it goes clockwise, they're hitting the Alps in the second week, and then they hit the Pyrenees in the third week, and they're already gassed. In other words, they need to hit the Pyrenees first and then deal with the Alps second rather than the other way around. So Rigoberto Urán, it looks like he lost about a minute plus. It could even be a minute 20. So where Romain Bardet and Mikel Landa only came in about 7, 8 seconds after that lead group with all their GC rivals, Rigoberto Urán, he may have just lost his tour in the sense of not even getting second or third because he is another minute 15, minute 20 down. So the overall standings, Van Avermaet still in yellow. Geraint Thomas is now second, 43 seconds down on the yellow. Philippe Gilbert, he's 44 seconds. Bob Jungels, 50 seconds down. Alejandro Valverde, a minute 31. Rafael Majka, a minute 32. Jakob Fuglsang, a minute 33. Chris Froome, a minute 42. Adam Yates, a minute 42. And Mikel Landa, a minute 42. So Tom Dumoulin, because he had to play catch-up going into the Wall of Brittany, he's down. Nairo Quintana is still down from that time that he lost earlier in the tour. And then Rigoberto Urán now is down. All right, looking into the Alps, things are going to start getting interesting. Take it easy.